Hey everyone, welcome to the Return of the Logos podcast, where we're attempting to return logic to a chaotic world by shining a light on the shadows. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Return of the Logos podcast. You're going to notice something a little different on this episode. Andy isn't here this week. He's out on vacation, so hopefully he's having a good time and relaxing and resting up. First off, a little bit of housekeeping. So we really appreciate everybody that's gone over to Rumble and followed us there. Now, me being me and not fully knowing how Rumble worked, when we first started the Rumble channel, we created this thing called an account. And the way I understood Rumble was that your account was basically where you posted your videos. Turns out Rumble has two different things. They have something called an account and another thing called a channel. And under your account, you can create as many channels as you want. So about a week ago, I had the idea I wanted to create another channel that had just educational information under topics of just like, philosophy, religion, economics, things of that nature, just, general information, no real political tint to it. Because I had noticed Andy and I had talked about a little bit in a couple episodes, actually, this gentleman named Yuri Brezmanov, and had recommended some of you find some of his lectures and interviews. So out of curiosity, I went on Rumble and started searching for it. And really, I think didn't even find it on Rumble, or if so, I only found like one video, because you can search for basically anything on YouTube and you can find a video on it. And I was like, well, why isn't that the case on Rumble? I noticed that it's not that the search function on Rumble is bad. It's just that type of content isn't really on Rumble. I'm making a short story long. So I created another channel on Rumble, and please, all of you listening, go follow it. It's called Informed Public. And to get back to the original point, when I had created that channel, I realized that all of our podcasts were just under an account as opposed to a channel. So now there's also a channel called Return of the Logos. So if you're following our user account, Return of the Logos, it'll actually show you every video. So you'll see all the videos on Informed Public and all of the posts that we put up for Return of the Logos. But we would also like to get our channel follower count up on the Return of the Logos channel as well as Informed Public. So please, guys, help support us, particularly on this Informed Public. I think it has a real opportunity to grow on a platform like Rumble, because there really, like I said, there really isn't such a thing like that on Rumble like there is on YouTube. And so there's a real opportunity there to make Rumble more competitive with YouTube in that space. So let's do that. And again, follow us on X at Returning Logos as well, and True Social at Return of the Logos. Thank you all so much for doing that. And there's another reason that I wanted to start with that. So I want to start off by saying we're not, Andy and I, neither one of us are expecting this podcast to just take off like a rocket ship and just go. We understand that, hey, when you first launch a podcast, you tell everybody and everybody is going to probably listen to it. And then, the numbers will probably drop off because it's not everybody's cup of tea. We understand that. But we still want it to grow. And this is kind of the point that I'm getting to. First off, what I would say is we're getting some feedback from some of you, which we really appreciate, which we want more of. We want more feedback. And we love the feedback. And we also want your input as well. That being said, we would love to get that engagement online. That's going to help us out in algorithms. It's going to help us out in visibility if we get interaction online. So anybody that, if you want to, give us your thoughts on something that we're talking about in a particular episode, if you want to maybe give us suggestions on ideas or things that you'd like to hear us talk about on an episode, anything like that, please engage us online with that. But more importantly, like I said, the engagement will help us in the algorithms and it'll help us get seen more. So please go to Rumble. If you have comments, leave comments in the Rumble section. We did get a comment, on Spotify, and I actually replied to the comment. So, we'll respond to comments. If you're listening through Spotify, we'll respond to those as well. All this being said, there's another reason why we want you guys to engage with us online. And it speaks to a bigger point. We have to create a community. The saying that politics is downstream of culture. And that's right. Sometimes culture is downstream of politics as well. But with politics being downstream of culture, we have to create a community. We don't want an echo chamber. We don't want to live in a bubble. We want to hear what all of you think, even if you disagree with some of it. But we have to build a community of people who have the same essential moral values. Because without the same essential moral values, that's how communities crumble. And when a community crumbles, everything around it will crumble, including the entire country that it's contained in. And it's not just that we want community, we want people to be engaged because there's a lot happening right now. For those of you that are paying attention, there's a war happening. There's a psychological war happening. There's a spiritual war happening. There's a political war happening. And there's a moral war happening. And if we're not paying attention, if we're not engaged, then we lose the war. When it comes to a battle between two parties, the party that does what they want will always beat the party that says, just leave me alone, every time. And I understand that that's kind of a common temperament among people who are traditionally conservative or libertarian. But there comes a point where you can't just keep saying, leave me alone, especially when the boundaries have been pushed as far as they have been. So that's just another reason why Andy and I started the podcast, because we decided we had enough. So this is how we decided to make our stand. This is how we decided to have our voices heard, by literally having our voices heard and trying to bring some common sense back to the conversation. Say what you will, you may not agree with our politics, but you'll never be able to say that we're not coming from a place of common sense. Because for both of us, I'm pretty sure I can speak for Andy, common sense is at the center of everything that we're talking about and everything that we're saying. So this is how we decided to make our stand. We decided that we needed to have the courage to do it. And we're asking all of you, have the courage. You don't have to go out and record a podcast the way me and Andy are. You don't even have to talk to anybody face to face. It can be something as simple as sharing this podcast. And that's what we hope you do. And that's the only way that we can continue the momentum that we have right now. Because right now, people who are just using common sense and who have an actual morality, a real morality, all of those people, all of us, we have the momentum. And we have to keep that momentum going. Because if we let it slip away, things can get even crazier and even worse. And that leads me into what I wanted to talk about today. From those of us who are looking at it from a common sense point of view, for those of us who are looking at the things that the current administration is doing, we're like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good for the country. And everyone else are just flailing around, screaming. And I mean, I know I've said it a lot of times, but It just seems like they want the destruction of the country. Take, for example, have any of you seen these news headlines? Maryland man deported to El Salvador. Have any of you seen these? Now, I want to talk about this a little bit. And the first thing that I want to talk about is how despicable the media is by using the phrase Maryland man. Because this Maryland man, his name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Yes, he lives in Maryland. But as you can tell by his name, he may not be an American citizen. And you would be correct if you assume that. He is from El Salvador. The man came here illegally several years ago. He was found to be associated with MS-13, which is a horrible, horrible gang, which has now been labeled as a terrorist organization by the Trump administration. You may not agree with that. That's not the discussion that I want to have right now. He was deported by the Trump administration and sent back to El Salvador. And in El Salvador, he is now in prison as an MS-13 gang member. Bukele, the president in El Salvador, has basically put in a zero tolerance policy for gang members. So they catch gang members, they throw them in prison. And over the last several years, El Salvador has gone from one of the most dangerous countries in the world to now one of the nicest and safest countries in the world. It's extremely safe there now. Their economy has taken off. He's done great things there. So I want to talk a little bit about this man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because you'll read all these articles that say a Maryland man was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. It makes you think that they just, went to some regular American's house. He wasn't on any list. He was just some regular guy that, maybe they swapped his name with somebody else's and accidentally picked him up or something like that. That's the narrative that they're trying to create. When in reality, the truth is, this man, let me find it here. I've got this pulled up from 2019. This is a police report. I have this from justice.gov. Let me scroll down here. So this is a police report. I'm going to read you the narrative. It's not too long, so I can get through this pretty quick. On 3/28/2019 at approximately 14:27 hours, Detective Redacted with Hyattsville City Police observed 4 individuals loitering in the parking lot of the Home Depot located at 3301 East West Highway in Hyattsville, Maryland 20782. As the detective approached the individuals, 2 of the individuals reached into their waistbands and discarded several unknown items under a parked vehicle. All 4 individuals were stopped by Hyattsville officers. The detective immediately recognized Christian Hernandez Romero, a.k.a. Bimbo, as a member of the MS-13 Sailors Clique. 2 small plastic bottles containing marijuana were located on scene. All 4 individuals were transported back to district for interviews. Member of the Prince George's County Gang Unit MS-13 Intelligence Squad have encountered Christian Hernandez Romero on multiple occasions. He has an extensive criminal history for multiple assault, concealing dangerous weapons, burglary, and many other criminal offenses. He has also been found guilty of gang participation in the circuit court for Prince George's County in December of 2018. Officers know Hernandez Romero to be an active MS-13 gang member with the Sailors Clique with the rank of Observacion and moniker of Bimbo. Officers also interviewed Jose Guillermo Dominguez. During the interview, officers observed tattoos of skulls covering their eyes, ears, and mouth. Officers know these kinds of tattoos are indicative of the Hispanic gang culture. The tattoos are meant to represent ver, oír, y callar, or see no evil, hear no evil, and say no evil. He also had a tattoo of a devil on his left leg, which officers know only higher-ranking MS-13 gang members are allowed to get a tattoo with the horns. This represents power within MS-13. Officers made contact with a past proven and reliable source of information who advised Jose Guillermo Dominguez is an active MS-13 gang member with the Sailors Clique, the rank of Chequeo with the moniker Maniaco. Officers then interviewed Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. During the interview, officers observed he was wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and a hoodie with rolls of money covering the eyes, ears, and mouth of the presidents on the separate denominations. Officers know such clothing to be indicative of Hispanic gang culture. The meaning of this clothing is to represent ver, oír, y callar, or see no evil, hear no evil, and say no evil. Wearing the Chicago Bulls hat represents that they are a member in good standing with MS-13. Officers contacted a past proven and reliable source of information who advised Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia is an active member of MS-13 with the Westerns Clique. The confidential source further advised that he is the rank of Chequeo with the moniker of Chele. Officers interviewed, all right, that's just, here, I'll go ahead and finish it out. There's one more paragraph. Officers interviewed Jason Josue Ramirez Herrera. During the interview, officers were unable to determine his gang affiliation. Officers know MS-13 gang members are only allowed to hang around other members or prospects for the gang. Officers will continue to monitor Josue Ramirez Herrera for further gang activity. He was sent on his way without further incident. Okay, so this is back in 2019, and the police there in Maryland, using a known good source of information, confirmed that Mr. Abrego Garcia was indeed a member of MS-13. So, Maryland man or MS-13 member. So after that, Mr. Abrego Garcia had a deportation judgment against him. He was going to get deported. And then there was a withholding of deportation order given to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. A withholding of deportation order is basically just the courts have decided that they're going to stay that deportation order. And the reason that they stayed that deportation order was because Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Maryland man, said that he was in danger for his life if he returned to El Salvador, which is something that, with a little more detail, can be a way to claim asylum. So there was a stay on the deportation order. Now, you'll also see in a lot of the articles, it'll say that this man was deported due to an error. The error being that there was a withholding of deportation status on him. And he claimed that he was in fear for his life. If he was in fear for his life, what the press is claiming that he was not an MS-13 gang member, which is what they're claiming. They're claiming that there's no evidence when there is clearly evidence that he was a member of MS-13. But if, as they claim, he was not a member of MS-13, why would he be in fear for his life to go back to El Salvador? The only reason he would be in fear for his life to go back to El Salvador is because he knows that he will get sent to an infamous prison in El Salvador where they're putting all these gang members. That's why he doesn't want to go back to El Salvador. Okay? He doesn't want to get thrown into prison in El Salvador. Don't nobody want to go to jail in El Salvador. So here's a little bit of the timeline of the deportation. I got this on Axios. Deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Here's the timeline. March 12th, 2025. Garcia arrested by ICE in Baltimore. March 15th, 2025, Garcia deported to El Salvador by the DOJ. March 24th, 2025, Jennifer Vasquez Sura, Abrego Garcia's wife, files an affidavit. March 31, 2025, the Atlantic first reports on Abrego Garcia's imprisonment over administrative error. April 4th, 2025, judge orders Trump admin return Abrego Garcia by April 7th. April 10, Supreme Court unanimously rules Trump admin should facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody. April 14, 2025, El Salvadoran president visits White House, says he won't return or release Abrego Garcia. So here's the interesting thing. This man is now in his home country and he's in prison. Rightly or wrongly, he's in his home country and he's in prison. So here's the question. Why does the judiciary, why do Democrat politicians, why do they want Trump to bring him back? More importantly, how do they think that Trump has the right to go to the president of another country and say, excuse me, Mr. President, I want you to give me one of your citizens so he can come here and stand trial? What? And by the way, just to stand trial for basically what would be a deportation hearing. Because I want to go back a little bit. A lot of what you'll hear is people are screaming that he's been denied due process. He's been denied due process. So that's why you have to bring him back. He was deported without due process. From Merriam-Webster, due process, a course of formal proceedings, such as legal proceedings, carried out regularly and in accordance with established rules and principles. So here's what they do. They use the term due process, understanding that most people are just going to hear that and say that and believe that this person was denied his rights. He didn't get due process. He was stripped of his rights. Due process is a process that is due to you in whatever form that process is, in whatever form that process takes in the context of, in this case, this judicial case or this legal case is in. So what would be due process in a case such as this? A case such as this, due process would simply be a deportation hearing. That's it. And he was given that. He was given a deportation hearing. So he got his due process. From the post-millennial, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a confirmed member of the violent MS-13 street gang, was arrested on March 28, 2019 during a meeting with several high-level MS-13 members in Hyattsville, Maryland, despite repeated claims by Democrats that he had no gang affiliation. That's the police report that I just read to you. According to the Prince George's County Police Gang Unit, Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13's Western Clique, holding the rank of Chiqueo with the moniker Chele. This designation was confirmed by a confidential source that the DOJ says has a history of providing reliable information. Officers observed him wearing gang-affiliated clothing, including a Chicago Bulls hat and a hoodie depicting the gang's see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil motif. This goes on to basically explain what I read to you earlier in the police report. Abrego Garcia later admitted to being an illegal alien from El Salvador, having entered the U.S. near McAllen, Texas in 2012. ICE determined he had no legal documentation and was subject to removal under federal immigration law. In April 2019, an immigration judge denied his request for release on bond, citing danger to the community and flight risk. The respondent did not demonstrate to the satisfaction of the immigration judge that his release would not pose a danger to property or persons. based on evidence presented, including a validated gang field interview sheet from the Prince George's County Police Department and testimony from a proven confidential source, the court finds that the respondent is a verified member of the Mara Salvatrucha MS-13 gang, holding the rank of Chicao with the Western Clique. The respondent's appearance, associations, and behaviors are consistent with known gang identifiers. Furthermore, he admitted to entering the United States illegally and has failed to present sufficient mitigating factors such as community ties or lack of danger that would justify bond. Accordingly, the request for release is denied. On appeal, the Board of Immigration Appeals upheld that ruling, dismissing arguments that his gang ties were unsubstantiated. And in the post-millennial article, they do have the PDF of the police report that I read to you earlier, so you can find it there as well. I was reading it from the Department of Justice website. So he entered the country illegally, had no documentation, and was denied his request for release on bond in 2019. He failed to present sufficient mitigating factors such as community ties or lack of danger that would justify bond. Community ties. So basically they're saying there's no reason for the court to believe that there's anything that you hold dear in this community. So we think you're going to run. Okay, interesting. So fast forward to 2025. Mr. Abrego Garcia is married and has a couple little kids. If you search through the news, if you search for this gentleman's name, you'll see all the current news stories are his wife stating that she won't rest until her husband is returned. He's the love of her life, so on and so forth. From the New York Post, April 16th, 2025. I love this. Alleged, I like the New York Post. They're generally pretty good, although sometimes they do have some questionable verbiage that I don't like, such as this alleged. But headline, alleged MS-13 member Kilmar Abrego Garcia deported by Trump admin to El Salvador mega prison, accused of physically abusing wife, who's fiercely advocating for his return. Garcia's wife, Jennifer Vasquez-Sura, applied for a protective order against her husband in 2021, saying he punched, scratched, grabbed, and bruised her, according to court documents. The Department of Homeland Security shared Vasquez-Sura's allegations on X, saying they are evidence that Abrego Garcia had a history of violence and was not the upstanding Maryland man the media has portrayed him as. Vasquez-Sura told the Post Wednesday that when she asked for protection from Abrego Garcia in 2021, she was acting out of caution after a disagreement with Kilmar in case things escalated after she survived domestic abuse in a previous relationship. Things did not escalate, and I decided not to follow through with the civil court process. We were able to work through the situation privately as a family, including by going to counseling, she said. The alleged gangbanger's wife argued that Abrego Garcia's alleged abuse is not a justification for ICE's action of abducting him and deporting him to a country where he was supposed to be protected from deportation, adding that Kilmar has always been a loving partner and father, and I will continue to stand by him and demand justice for him. And you can also find this on X. Mr. Andy No posted on X. The wife of deported suspected gang terrorist Kilmar Abrego Garcia either lied to the court when she petitioned for a domestic violence protective order against him, or she's lying now on the GoFundMe, claiming he is an excellent husband, as over $162,000 has poured in. What's going on here? What in the world is going on here? That's just the background of this guy. At best, you can say his status is contentious. At best. At worst, you can say, yeah, he's a wife beater and he's a gang member. We should deport him. In a post from J.D. Vance, I really like this. Because another thing you'll hear all these people claiming is that, well, again, back to the due process. Everyone's afforded their due process. We can't deport someone without their due process. And J.D. Vance makes an excellent point here. Consider that Joe Biden allowed approximately 20 million illegal aliens into our country. This placed extraordinary burdens on our country. Our schools, hospitals, housing, and other essential services were overwhelmed. On top of that, many of these illegal aliens committed violent crimes or facilitated fentanyl and sex trafficking. That is the situation we inherited. The American people elected the Trump administration, to solve this problem. The president has successfully stopped the inflow of illegal aliens, and now we must deport the people who came here illegally. To say the administration must observe due process is to beg the question, what process is due is a function of our resources, the public interest, the status of the accused, the proposed punishment, and so many other factors. To put it in concrete terms, imposing the death penalty on an American citizen requires more legal process than deporting an illegal alien to their country of origin. When the media and far left obsess over an MS-13 gang member and demand that he be returned to the United States for a third deportation hearing, what they're really saying is they want the vast majority of illegal aliens to stay here permanently. Here's a useful test. Ask the people weeping over the lack of due process what precisely they propose for dealing with Biden's millions and millions of illegals. And with reasonable resources and administrative judge constraints, does their solution allow us to deport at least a few million people per year? If the answer is no, they've given away their game. They don't want border security. They don't want us to deport the people who've come into our country illegally. They want to accomplish through fake legal process what they have failed to accomplish politically, the ratification of Biden's illegal immigrant invasion. President Trump and I will not stand for it. I agree. I agree with that 100%. And to go to, I don't want to get into this point too broadly. It's just a little bit of a tangent. But it's like, and people would ask, why would Democrats want all these illegals here? Why? What's the point? And there's a lot of reasons. You've even heard a lot of Democrats bringing up that old line, they do the jobs Americans don't want to do. Okay, so then you're in support of a serf class that will work for peasant wages so that we don't have to get our hands dirty. You're in favor of serfdom. Okay. This is, I think, what the play is. The play here, which actually Trump tried to head this off back in his first term. Because if you remember back during his first term was the census. And Trump wanted to ask on the census, are you a U.S. citizen? And the courts barred him from asking that question. Why does that matter, Isaiah? That really matters because the census count is what they use to determine congressional apportionment in the states. Because the amount of representatives you have in your state is dependent upon that state's population. Not based on its citizen population, based on its population. Okay? They're trying to get extra congressional seats. Okay, well, what happens then? The number of electoral votes that a state has equals the number of congressional seats they have plus 2 for their 2 Senate seats. So not only do they get more congressional seats, and most of these illegals are going to liberal Democrat states. That's why they created sanctuary cities. So they're getting more Democrat votes in the House, and they're getting more electoral votes in the presidential election. All right, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. But I think it's important because I think a lot of people don't know that. I don't think a lot of people know. And we need to know. So, back to Mr. Abrego Garcia. And by the way, I would say if you guys are on X, you should go find that tweet from J.D. Vance and read the replies. It's a real interesting thread. you hear some of the dumbest arguments. So I know, like I said, I've said it before, maybe it's just turning into a cliche. Maybe I'm just making a statement, a broad statement, because I don't have a specific reason. So I'm just saying they want to destroy the country, but I can't give specific reasons of why they're doing what they're doing. No, I literally think they want to destroy the country. There was an interesting Tucker Carlson interview with Alex Jones, and I haven't finished it yet, but it just made me think about things a little bit differently. Alex Jones likes to talk a lot about the global elites and how they want they want a global society. They want full control over a single global society. And it's like, that kind of changed my perspective on, well, maybe this is it. This is what they're going for. And this is why they want to destroy the country. Maybe, I don't know. Something to think about. It's definitely something to think about. So now they want to bring proven gang members who have been deported. They want to bring them back to the country. Why? Just so he can have like J.D. Vance said, so he can have a third deportation hearing? No, he got his due process. But they want to bring him back. He's not even an American citizen. He was here illegally. He didn't even have a visa. And they want to bring him back just so he can have another deportation hearing. Meanwhile, in a second story that just popped up over the last day or two, does anyone remember the name Leticia James? Leticia James is the Attorney General of New York, and she was the one who prosecuted Trump back in, when was this? This was during Biden administration. This was back in like 2023, maybe 2022 is when it started. This was the case against Trump where they say that he defrauded the banks in order to get more favorable loans. Basically, the gist of the case was that he inflated the values, so he listed his properties as collateral for loans to a bank. And they're saying he inflated the value of the properties to increase his net worth, thus getting better loan rates, higher dollar amount loans. And funny enough, they actually found him guilty on this, despite the fact that representatives from the bank testified that they were not defrauded. They enjoyed their relationship with Mr. Trump, and they would seek to do business with him again. And despite the fact that in the application process of the paperwork Trump filed to get those loans, there was a clause in the paperwork basically telling them, the banks, that these figures may not be accurate. It's up to you to do your own due diligence on these properties that I'm listing as collateral. So, Trump is committing fraud in order to get more favorable loans. That was the charge. Right here, CBS News. This is April 16th. That is today, the day I'm recording. New York Attorney General Leticia James accused of possible mortgage fraud. Really? New York Attorney General Leticia James has been referred for federal criminal prosecution for alleged mortgage fraud related to a Virginia home and a New York property. William Pulte, director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, wrote a letter obtained by CBS News New York to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi alleging that James had, quote, has in multiple instances falsified bank documents and property records to acquire government-backed assistance and loans and more favorable loan terms. Exactly what she prosecuted Donald Trump for. Pulte alleges James may have falsified her residence status at a home in Norfolk, Virginia to get a better mortgage rate. According to Pulte, in 2023, James granted Shamise Thompson Hairston power of attorney to make the Norfolk property, purchased in August of that year, her principal residence, despite James actually living and serving as Attorney General in New York at the time. At the time of the 2023 Norfolk, Virginia property purchase and mortgage, Ms. James was the sitting Attorney General of New York and is required by law to have her primary residence in the state of New York, even though her mortgage applications list her intent to have the Norfolk, Virginia property as her primary home, Pulte wrote. Pulte also alleges James bought a 5-family property in Brooklyn in 2001 with a loan that is only available for homes with 4 units or less. Spanning the last 2 decades, Ms. James has consistently misrepresented the same property as only having 4 units in both building permit applications and numerous mortgage documents and applications, Pulte wrote. It appears that Ms. James may have listed the Brooklyn, New York property as 4 units instead of 5 units in order to meet the conforming loan requirements and thus receive better interest rates. It's also alleged that James and her father, listen to this, it's also alleged that James and her father signed mortgage documents in 1983 stating that they were husband and wife. Ms. James, for both properties listed above, appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms, Pulte concluded, adding that it could lead to charges such as wire fraud, mail fraud, and bank fraud, along with making false statements to a financial institution. Bondi said she was aware of the referral and will be reviewing it. Leticia James responds, Attorney General James is focused every single day on protecting New Yorkers, especially as this administration weaponizes the federal government against the rule of law and the Constitution. She will not be intimidated by bullies, no matter who they are, a spokesperson for the New York Attorney General's office said. So they go on in the CBS News article they go over the fraud charges that James brought to Trump. And then they have an interesting section here. Legal expert on the allegations. James has built her entire career on exposing deception. So right now it's a very problematic situation for her because she's being accused of the same acts that she accused Trump of. And I think there's a high probability they will go after her. Civil fraud is when you sign a declaration or make any statements to obtain some favorable outcome, some benefits of any type. So in this particular case, it would be more favorable mortgage terms. If that is proved, then that constitutes civil fraud, legal expert Nicole Bernecki said. So why did I bring that up after talking about Mr. Abrego Garcia? I don't know, maybe this is just me and the way my brain works. The way that I tend to kind of see big picture things. I kind of, see an umbrella and I see all of the things under it and I see how they're connected. Maybe you guys don't see the connection I'm going for here, but I guess for me to try to explain it, they want to bring criminals back into the country who aren't even U.S. citizens, who don't give a damn about this country. They want to bring them back in, all the while the people who are fighting for that on a political level are themselves up to their neck in fraud, up to their neck in illegality, all kinds of criminality, all kinds of chicanery. And this isn't just Leticia James. This is just one of many. You don't have to dig too far. You can find all types of corruption on lots of these people. Judges, attorney generals, members of Congress, people who serve in bureaucracy, the bureaucratic state. You don't have to dig that far, and you find the corruption. And so you have all of these people out here crying, Trump is a fascist. He's deporting people illegally. And then in 2 years, they go and vote for a politician that's actually guilty of these things. I tend to be a cynical person. Well, people would say I'm cynical. Me, I would say I'm a realist. I try to look at reality, but I do tend to view it negatively, which is something that I need to fix. Because the only way that we can turn this around and get it back on track and keep it on track is to see the dirt and know that underneath the dirt, there's something beautiful and precious, and that we have the ability to clean the dirt and then keep that thing clean. This goes back to the beginning where I was asking for all of you to help us create community. We cannot at this moment win truth, win civility, win morality, when common sense has the momentum. We can't let that momentum slow down. The only way we can do this is to grow our community and to expose these people for who they really are. And I know it's hard. There are some people that you can talk to, no matter how many facts you give them, no matter how many logic trails you take them down, they simply won't believe you. I understand that. There's some people like that I know in my life. But that doesn't mean that we just give up. There will always be people like that. And that's another interesting thing that I've heard. I can't remember who said it, but I'll always remember the debate isn't to try and convince the person that you're debating. You're never going to convince them. The debate is for the people who are listening. So you may never convince your sister or your brother or your uncle or your cousin or your neighbor. You may never convince them. But right now, where the debates are taking place are on the internet. They're online. That's where the debates are taking place. This is where we have to have the discussion. This is where we have to build the community, because this is where people will see it. This is where you and I can convince people of what is right, of what is true, of what is moral, and of what is common sense. This is where we can convince them. And I humbly ask that you help us do that you help us build that community, and that you help us keep that community strong and focused, and that we don't drop the ball, because the shoe could drop at any moment. We don't know what's going to happen next week. We don't know what's going to happen next year. They've already tried to kill Trump twice within the last year and a half. They've tried to throw him in prison multiple times. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. So we can't give up. We can't slow down. We have to keep pushing the ball forward, 1 yard at a time, if that's what it takes. So help us out. Follow us on Rumble. Like I said, sorry that I messed up the whole Rumble thing. If you're following our account, we'd really appreciate it if you'd go to the channel Return of the Logos and follow that as well. Because then if you go to just that channel, Return of the Logos, then it'll show you only the Return of the Logos podcast. Whereas if you go to our account, now you'll also see the Informed Public channel. Although I would please ask that you also follow that channel, Informed Public on Rumble. Like I said, it's just, I'm trying to post a couple videos a week. They're generally like, college lectures or debates. or things of that nature. Just stuff that I believe is just good for the public knowledge that people should understand. At least, like for instance, I put up a video the other day that's a college lecture of an overview of postmodernism. I don't agree with postmodernism, and probably you don't agree with postmodernism, but you may not know exactly what postmodernism is. So if you have a discussion with someone, they may be able to, that is in favor of postmodernism, they may be able to work some kind of voodoo on you or whatever, after seeing this video, then you have, the basics, you have the basic understanding of what it is, so you can have that discussion. So it's things like that. Like I said, I'm trying to keep it, not politically biased. Like I said, I just want it to be all information so that you have a spring to draw upon. So again, that's Informed Public on Rumble. We'd really appreciate the follow there. And again, if you're following us on Rumble, Return of the Logos, we ask you please also follow the channel. If you're not following us anywhere, why? Why are you not following us? Follow us on Rumble. But you guys know the deal. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere and anywhere that you get your podcasts, you can find us. And another thing, you can also give us a rating on those platforms. That helps us. That helps us in the analytics. It helps us in the algorithms. Go on there and rate us. Give us a rating. You can also write a review on some of them. You can comment. You can make comments on Spotify. I know that for sure because someone did, and I responded to it. But help us. Engage with us. Engage with us on Rumble. Hit us up in the comments. Give us your ideas for stuff you want to talk about. Maybe if you've got a really interesting idea, if you've got a really nuanced opinion, maybe you'll come on the show and we can discuss it. We'd love to do that. All right? So thanks, everybody. I know this episode's a little different. I still wanted to put something out even though Andy was on vacation. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. No worries if you hated it. I hope you didn't. But if you hated it, Andy will be back on the next episode, and we'll resume our shenanigans. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in to the Return of the Logos podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.